look at Alder Biopharmaceuticals roar. On a great day for the averages, this stock really stood out, rallying nearly $3 or more than 11%. Whole biotech cohort rocketed into the stratosphere. And if people feel like it's finally safe to speculate in these risky development stage biotechs again, Alder might potentially have a lot more room to run, given that the stock is still down 48% from last year's highs, even after today's move. Of course, if this bounce turns out to be ephemeral, then there's no reason the stock can't repeal this entire gain. So what exactly does this company do? It specializes in developing antibody-based therapies with an incredibly promising migraine drugs, phase 3 clinical trials, and a treatment for inflammatory diseases like arthritis that's moving into phase 3 later this year. Wow, this is important. A lot of sharks on goal, because a biotech company with just 1 or 2 drugs in phase 3 trials is much less speculative beast than a biotech with earlier stage pipeline. In other words, we feel good about this. Don't get me wrong. This is a high-risk stock, one that's been a real wild trader. Plunged 10% Monday, rebounded 5% Tuesday, lost another 9% yesterday, jackknifed up 11% today. Not a kind of stock you want for your retirement fund. You should only speculate in these clinical stage plays. And by the way, let me just say it. Alder's a spec for younger investors, I think, because if it doesn't pan out, they'll have the whole lives ahead of them to make up for any losses. That said, Alder has a lot going for it, and the huge decline in the stock over the last 7 months means that you don't need to be a crazy momentum chaser to start building a position now. So let's check in with Dr. Randall Schatzman. He's the co-founder and CEO of Alder Biopharmaceuticals. Hear more about his company's prospects. Dr. Schatzman, welcome back to Mad Money.
Thank you, Jim. It's good to be with you again.
All right, sir, I've got to ask you, because I know our viewers will say, is there any way that you can do your job and actually look at the stock? Because it's grading you day to day on something that is a very long-term proposition.
It's clearly been a rocky week on Wall Street, and I would agree with you on that front. I think the thing for your viewers to understand is that the biopharma space has actually never been stronger. The fundamentals are sound. In 2015, it was actually its most productive year. About 45 new molecular entities were approved by the FDA, which is a record. And the innovation is there, and the interest in that innovation by Big Pharma is also high. Big Pharma is looking to this industry to provide that innovation for their own pipelines.
All right, well, let's talk about that, Doctor. You have a migraine prevention drug. You've got this handout that comes from this conference that is really unbelievable. Rapid onset of 100% migraine prevention, remain migraine-free during first 4 weeks following treatment. This is for your ALD-43. These are remarkable figures. For migraine sufferers, they should be clamoring for this, particularly against the other drugs, of which you mentioned most of them in your handout.
Well, in fact, there is high interest in this, and I think this is really on the back of the success of the scientists at Alder. They've been able to identify a therapeutic that neutralizes what we believe is the primary initiating factor for migraines, and target it in a way that we can prevent migraines happening in these patients altogether.
Now, 36 million Americans suffer from migraines. Only 22.3 million migraine sufferers have been clinically diagnosed. How do you reach that population? I know you're doing your tests. How do you get the word out? And because given the data that you've shown, I have to believe that there are people who are really suffering that maybe could have a real break here.
Yep, you're exactly right, Jim. And I think the key here is really about reaching out through social media. Today, almost every patient is on the lookout for new forms of therapy that can alleviate the suffering that they have. And we're making the most of that and reaching out to those patients.
Now, let's talk about the competition. You've got some slides, and it's very clear from the slides from your deck, and anybody can get this, and it's really rather remarkable, that you are well ahead of a bunch of different companies. I'm talking about Amgen, Lilly, great company, Teva, but we know that Allergen came on and talked about how it has got a migraine formulation that it is very bullish about. Allergen's going to be teaming up with Pfizer. How do you compete against giant companies like Allergen and Pfizer that say that they have a better mousetrap here?
Well, first and foremost, again, I think the Alder scientists have just discovered a therapeutic that we believe has best-in-class properties. And to be honest, in a word, we think that Alder can lead the way in terms of innovation, in terms of how we're viewing the best way to introduce this therapeutic to patients. And we can bring novelty to the table that we believe some of the bigger players are not going to be able to do.
Now, when your stock went up, obviously, everyone gets very excited. You were able to raise some capital. When it go down like this, do you think, you know what, there's a lot of biotech companies that are so small now because the market's taking us down, we're going to get a call from a major pharmaceutical company and take out our upside by offering an attractive premium to people who just got in, but is really kind of disappointing if you take a long-term view?
Well, I would agree with that. And obviously, there is high interest in this space, in treating the huge number of patients that are here. I think that for our investors, we've got some very key catalysts that are coming in 2016, and they should be looking out for those. And hopefully along the way, that'll bring some positive return for those investors.
And rheumatoid arthritis going along well?
Going very well. I think we'll have some news on that front from that drug later this year as well.
The last question. When you see this different kind, it's got you looked at the well-tolerated with no major side effects. The first thing I said was, is there ever a chance that the FDA says, you know what, we really don't have anything good on the market right now. Let's just let people have this thing because the side effects have been, it shows well-tolerated. Millions of people are suffering from it. Let's just give it to them.
Well, in fact, I think the FDA has responded positively in that sense. About 4,000 patients have now been treated with agents that are targeting the biology that we're targeting across the 4 programs that are out there. They've shown a very promising safety profile, and in that respect, the FDA recognizes that and is actually working with each of the companies to expedite the development programs. But in all honesty, I do think we want to take them through a development program that's very rational so that what we deliver to our patients is both very efficacious and has the exquisite safety profile that we'd like it to have.
Well, I think that's terrific. And I know that, you know, when it was high, they all love it. When it's low, that's exactly when people should be buying it. Dr. Randall Schatzman, President and CEO of Alder Biopharma. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on Mad Money.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having us back.
Best to buy these when they're hated, not when they're loved. Alder Biopharma. Check the data out. The migraine drug seems pretty amazing. Mad Money's back after the break. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.